Knowledge in the medieval Arab world flourished, and it earned itself the name as the Golden Age. At the forefront of this were the great scholars and thinkers we hear about up until today. But there was also another aspect which is overlooked, another great transmitter of knowledge which was introduced into the Arab world and revolutionized it and changed the course of history. Paper. Paper has a fascinating history, and it was even used at times as a political bargaining tool, so it is worth mentioning how paper developed. Before the explosion of paper-making technology, the Arabs used many different techniques which were prevalent for centuries before. One of the techniques was using parchment, and this was made from animal skin, and it was a lengthy process. What they do is they get the animal skin, stretch it out for a number of days, and then they need to strip it down for it to become thin enough and for it to become a flat surface for you to write on. This was also a technique which was used in medieval Europe, and we do have surviving manuscripts up until this day which were made from parchment. Other techniques such as writing on clay tablets were also prevalent, and they were utilized by the Sumerians in southern Mesopotamia. There was also papyrus, and this was used by the ancient Egyptians, and it used to be grown on the banks of the River Nile. They would make it out of the leaves of the papyrus plant, and this was only found in Egypt, and this hugely benefited them. There are surviving papyrus manuscripts of up to 2200 BC. And as you can see, I actually do have a papyrus sheet of paper. This was actually made in front of me when I went to Egypt a few years back, and they made it out of the papyrus plant we were just discussing, and here we have it. This is history right on our fingertips. This is what was used thousands of years ago. As you can see, it's very delicate, however, it's very hard, it's very brittle. I'm going to put it next to the microphone so you can hear the sound of it. I don't know if it's making a clear sound. It's quite amazing how, they made this paper thousands of years ago. They used to make the exact same paper, and they used to use it to write on. This was before the Chinese method of making paper was introduced into the Arab world, which we will get onto next. And what the Egyptians used to do is they actually monopolized papyrus, and they used to make profit from it. It used to be kept as a secret within their borders. They fixed its price and sold the surplus for profit. And this already shows us the influence or the power paper had, or papyrus had, on the ancient world. There are other examples to which paper was used as a political bargaining tool. For example, the Khalifa Abd al-Malik in the year 690 imposed sanctions on the Byzantine Empire by ceasing to export paper. So we can see it was a hugely valued commodity. But when the Arabs expanded into Egypt, the use of papyrus became a thing of the past, and the use of parchment was introduced. However, the Chinese had a different method. They used to use hemp and cotton to make their paper. And the remarkable thing is that this technique of making paper stayed within China for more than 600 years as a secret, almost as if it was used as a state monopoly. But the year 751 was a turning point. The ruler, or the representative of the Abbasid government in Khorasan, which is in Persia or modern-day Iran, fought the Chinese. They had a battle and the Chinese lost. And what this meant is that they took Chinese prisoners who knew the Chinese way of making paper, and they introduced this technique into Arabia, and now you had Chinese paper making mills within the Arab and Islamic world. We're definitely having some Chinese after this. And the first Chinese paper making mill was established in Samarkand, which is a modern day area or city in Uzbekistan. And from Samarkand, it made its way to Baghdad in 794, then to Syria, Yemen, Egypt, Spain, and even Sicily. The introduction of these paper mills meant that it was being produced at a rapid rate, cheaply, and there was a lot available. Paper was being made quickly and efficiently, which allowed scholars like Al-Hariri and Ibn Nadim to produce books which were hundreds of pages. And in a way, funnily enough, the cheap availability of paper and in its abundance meant that these scholars were now able to produce more books, which made them famous. So without the availability of this paper, they wouldn't have been able to produce their works and in a way become famous. So paper in a way made them famous, obviously alongside their knowledge. And we can call paper the fame maker, which is actually a similar name which was given to the Earl of Warwick, Richard Neville. Now, I know we're kind of diverging from medieval Arab history into medieval English history, but I love medieval English history probably more than medieval Arab history, but I'll keep that as a secret. And in a nutshell, what Richard Neville done is he overthrew the Lancasters and he helped overthrow the Lancasters and put Edward of York on the throne. Then he turned on Edward of York and brought the Lancasters back, and he earned his name as the Kingmaker. And I kind of compared this to paper as the fame maker, because if it wasn't, as I said, for the cheap abundance of paper, these scholars wouldn't have been able to write their works and spread them throughout the Arab and Islamic world, which in turn meant that they wouldn't have been able to become well known. And this goes to show the influence paper had on the medieval Arab and wider Islamic world. And this eventually spread beyond the Arab borders, and parchments and papyrus became a thing of the past. Different qualities of paper was now being produced. And as we said, it didn't stay within the Arab or Islamic borders, it spread beyond that. And it was one of the main reasons the House of Wisdom was established in Baghdad. But there are debates about who it spread through. Some say it was the Crusaders. As we know, the Wars of the Crusades meant that knights from Europe spent more than 200 years in the Middle East. And some say they came across these paper-making techniques and other things the Arabs and Middle Eastern people used to do, and they took it back with them to Europe. Some say it was through Spain or Andalus, where the Arabs expanded their empire into. But there are strong cases made for Sicily, because the Italians mastered the art of making this paper. And you do have some traditional paper making mills in Italy up until today. The process of making this paper was very simple. So you'd get rags of cotton, you put them in warm water, which was in like a wooden tube, and you would have mallets powered by a water wheel, which would continuously smash the cotton until it became like a milky substance. And what they would do is they would put this milky substance over the sieve and flatten it out, allowing all the water to drain, and then they dry it up in between different cloths, and then you had your paper. It was a much quicker, much more efficient way of making paper than, for example, making them from parchments or papyrus. And this was revolutionary for the Arabs. It allowed many books to be spread throughout the lands, knowledge to be transmitted. And this is why we said, yes, the scholars played their part, but paper also played its part. I think we're done. No, wait. We still need to roll back the years. So we're going to try and make this medieval paper. I have rags of cotton in boiling water over here. If you can see, I don't want to put water to pour out. And I have my DIY hammer. Now, I did have a mallet somewhere which has a wider surface area, but I can't seem to find it anywhere. So we'll start off with this, and until I find this mallet, we're going to be smashing this cotton with a hammer. Let's go. So after continuously smashing this medieval paper into oblivion for several days, trying to get this milky substance which we can make paper out of, it didn't work, as expected. So it led me back to my research, and I found a method on the internet whereby you can boil the cotton in water and add baking soda, and apparently it should give you the milky substance you need to make medieval paper. And it still didn't work, so I decided to give up. With my limited resources, I finally realised that making medieval paper was a bit outside my jurisdiction. We should have stuck to the soap. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed our video, make sure you do subscribe, turn your notification buttons on so you're always up to date with our latest content, and you can leave a like if you want. I've also included the links to our Twitter and Instagram accounts in the description below. Once again, thank you.